One unusual opening and 3 brilliancies later, and Cactus Marsupial, the world's #1 cheese master, just solved chess. Who was his opponent with the black pieces? It was the Polish superstar Jan Krzysztof Duda, aka JKD. This was an online chess event, Blitz Chess, titled Tuesday, also known as Cheating Tuesday by some, and what an absolute perler of a game this is. So Magnus goes d4 here.
The same missed.
We get d5 in response, and now it's move 2. Do you go for a Queen's Gambit, a London system? Well, we get a hybrid with knight to c3po, knight f6, and bishop f4 starts the Jabava London. Clearly Magnus has been studying hard Hans Niemann's Chessable Jabava London course. He's so inspired. We see pawn c5 in response, and now if you try do this one, go for the old double whammy, well, you just run into queen a5, check, and you lose a knight unless you pop it back and you lose time. So none of that. Instead we get e3, takes is played, pawn recaptures, a6 forever takes away that square from minor pieces, and after these 4 horsemen of the apocalypse enter the game, you could definitely just play bishop e2 here, castle the king, that sort of thing, but Magnus plays a bit of a boo-boo, knight e5. You're not supposed to move the same piece twice in the opening. However, here it's a little bit justified. Very closed, stable pawn structure, not such a biggie. We see bishop d7, super solid, and now here's the point. The knight looks clumsy. It blocks the pawn, so it stumbles back this way, e6 and c3, and suddenly the position starts taking on a harmony, a stable pawn structure. The bishop develops. Now you've got a bathtub comprised of minor pieces. You don't see that every day. This knight spins into g3, the development almost complete, and after b5, given the question mark but doesn't look that bad, bishop d3, before Magnus can do anything else, Duda pushes p on the queen side. We get castles, takes, both players now castled, so quick RESPECT, exploded out, great etiquette, rook b1 hits the open file, maybe hints at an invasion here, so Duda covers with the lady. Okay, ignore all the question marks, they're just playing blitz chess, never going to be perfect. We see Chewbacca's favourite move, the Wookiee one, and after rook d8, Magnus now whispers, do you even rook lift, bro? And I gotta say, this whole setup of the pieces somehow looks clumsy, right? You know, is this bishop about to get trapped with knight h5? Well, no, it's covered. Is something else bad going to happen? No, they're fine. But usually you want your pieces to have space, be able to maneuver. But Magnus is making it work. Apologies for my voice, by the way. Really suffering with this allergies stuff, hay fever, pollen count. Killing me. We see takes now on e5, and you do have a choice of how to recapture, and of course Magnus doesn't go with the bishop, he goes with the pawn. Why do I say of course? Well, it creates an imbalance in the position, changes the structure, right? It's the kind of messy game he wants to get the win. Now we see the move, you could play rook e8, knight e8 of knight e4. Now it gives a pawn, but if you'd stumbled backwards, the engine tiptoes through the lines, finds a way to do it, but it looks super scary. So instead we see this and this. Duda has given a pawn, but at least he opens the d-file for his rook against the queen. He gets some play. This pawn could be weak in the future, but the best move here is rook b8. He doesn't find it. We're going to see the significance because after the very natural bishop c6, opening the attack of the rook on the queen and the tension between the bishops, therefore looks like you're going to trade them by force, Magnus comes up with an absolute classic. Now you saw in the thumbnail what's about to be played if you looked in detail, so you maybe already know what's coming, but well done if you see the idea. What do we see? A kind of Greek gift sacrifice, bang, takes on h7.
Pooh, what a move. What a move.
And after now the king recaptures, the point is revealed, the queen comes streaming out, king backpedaling here, and the rook joins the attack from the third rank. You know, the piece is just on the right squares. Great depth of understanding. And why was rook b8 the best move? Well, if you'd have played it earlier, Instead of bishop c6, now you'd be threatening checkmate in one. You know, white is about to get branked. You never made any room here, back ranked that is. Plus the queen would be open to bounce to c5 or something, but you never played that move. So Magnus can go like this in one, threaten checkmate here, and the whole attack now rumbles much faster. f5 is forced to give the king a flight square. Normally you want to be taken on croissant because you just look like an absolute boss, but here it doesn't actually help. You know, it brings the bishop a bit more into the game, defending the pawn, plus you give the king an extra square in some lines. So instead we see Magnus go check, king f7, and now rook g3 to hit that tender point, defended by the bishop, but this one now piles on the pressure. You cannot cover it for a third time, so the king gets its running shoes on, and now we don't see Magnus take on g7. Looks really natural, right? Yes, you could take here, but it's not actually good, because after this queen b7 move, wait, surely that's terrible. No, it's not. Okay, if takes, you get mated. Nice tricky dicky tactic. Well, this is good now because you're pinning here, and if you check, you can come across to the defense. This is the key thing. So actually taking with the bishop, not good. You can take with the rook, that's different. Then this bishop participates in the attack with the queen. It's actually very deadly, but Magnus doesn't do any of them. He checks from g6 here, king d7. I mean, how is Duda ever going to survive this? Well, the same way that porcupines mate, with great difficulty. We now see this move of queen f7 check, and if you not just let go of all your advantage, because the bishop can now block. Magnus doesn't take on g7, he goes bishop g5, but he allows rook e8, defending that one. This is defended by the queen. You know, where's the knockout blow now? Because you can go rook d3 check, which Magnus does, but now the bishop blocks the way, and a wooden shield in the centre of the board. Now how are you continuing this attack? Where's the knockout blow? Do you go c4 using the pin? Well, the queen covers here. Do you run this pawn? Do you take here? Do you take here or something? But then rook recaptures. Well, Magnus now finds the absolute classic move. He picks up this rook and slams it down on d5 here, whispering away, crush your enemies, see them driven before you and hear the lamentations of their women. What is Duda to do? If he captures, whoops, not played here, we go to analysis mode. Well, now you recapture like this, and the king running perilously short of squares. You know, if you step like this, you can now take, let's say the natural rook recaptures. Well, now you land this, and it's actually a checkmate because the b file is cut. This square's also taken. Awesome lines. So the rook not touched. Instead, the king jumps to c6. Surely this is horrendously lost, but Magnus is only regaining his piece, so Duda can still fight. We see rook d4 now play. Beautiful centralization, about to skewer the king to the queen. So that's why bishop c5 blocks the way, hits the rook. It jumps to c4 here, and so rook b8 is now a tricky little defense, threatening to checkmate the white king. And Magnus therefore hops away to the d file. He wants to keep the fuel on the fire here, not make exchanges, checkmate this king, and rook d6 check, of course, could be a huge threat now. This one's actually pinned, this bishop. So king b5 is played, hits the rook, also sets up ideas of bishop takes on f2 check, queen's then open. So that's why Magnus now plays the incorrect move of rook f4. What should he have done? Well, better was sacking the exchange, or even lifting this one into the game using these pins. But he misses it. He does this, does some cover on the king, but now king a5. And you won't believe it, out of nowhere, Duda starts fighting back like an absolute lion. We see h4 giving the king some Lufthansa. Now rook b2 invading. There's tons of pressure on the pawn. You could counter with the white rook going for some invasion, but Magnus goes queen h5 here. Duda activates his queen, covers the f3 square, looks at the white king, and Magnus now goes really passive, not like him, but they are playing on seconds here. He covers the king with rook rook f1, recastling. Congratulations to him. Rook eb8 now stacks those two towers. Tolkien's proud. King h2, and after rook takes on a2, it's not so much about the pawn, but the double stack of the rooks is on the way. Kebab on the second. Now queen d1 is the most powerful move. Really nice geometry, connects with this square, looks for bishop d8. What an idea, but not played. Magnus goes rook c4, and look at the reaction here of Ival Barovic. Out of nowhere, the position's trending roughly back to level, especially after this one. Duda looks like a lady, centralised, hits the rook on c4, therefore it comes back to f4, saving itself, but you're just in a pretty much level game now. Duda could take this pawn, because not only is it a big central pawn, but you pin this rook to the king. Queen f7 apparently best. The line goes something like this, you step up the pin. If takes, rook recaptures, so on and so forth. Wild, wild game, but not played. This one not touched. Instead, Duda doubles the rooks. I mean, how natural is that? But now Magnus can play the excellent move, and he finds it, taking advantage. Sorry about your ears there. Whack this mic. Taking advantage of the last move here. He plays queen e8 there, and it shuts this trap on the black king. Where can it actually go except to the dark squares? What does Magnus want? Bishop d8 check, of course. Now for the moment, black can block with the bishop and you're okay. But Duda plays an absolute stinker. He should go king b6 apparently as the best move. But what does he do? He plays bishop takes on f2, such a natural move to advance your own attacking ideas. You know, now you've got ideas of checking the king somewhere or other, and then you'll have all of the triple whammy heavy pieces barreling down, 19 points of material on g2, but he allows Magnus now to play the third brilliant move of the game. Rook takes on f2, rook recaptures, and all the defenders of the b6 square have been distracted, so bishop d8 check shuts the trap on the king, and you're getting mated in 3 moves. Duda resigns here or loses on time, but his only option is takes. Queen recaptures here with check. King b5 the only move, and after this, where's the square? This and this, we see a sample checkmate on the board. Great fight between these two lions of the chess world. Hope you enjoyed, and have a look at the video on screen if you want to see another incredible game played in Title Tuesday this week. Magnus Carlsen, Queen Shocker.